Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. You're easily replaceable. Don't forget it. My name is Daryl. I'm 29. I work construction for Richmond Electric in Houston, and I've been with Simone for 3 years. That night, sitting in our apartment kitchen while she scrolled through texts from her ex-boyfriend, Terrence, those words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I'd asked her why Terrence kept messaging her about unfinished business. Simple question. Her response wasn't just cruel. It was calculated. She didn't even look up from her phone when she said it. You're right, I told her, keeping my voice steady. I should remember that. Something shifted in me that moment. Not anger exactly, more like clarity. Simone had always talked down to me, but this felt different. This felt like a warning I should have heard months ago. She laughed, still typing. Good. Now, stop being paranoid about Terrence. He's just a friend. I watched her fingers move across the screen, responding to messages she wouldn't let me see. The apartment suddenly felt smaller. 3 years of walking on eggshells. 3 years of her correcting how I dressed, how I spoke to her friends, how I held my fork at dinner. 3 years of being told I was lucky she put up with me. I'm going for a drive, I said. Whatever. Pick up milk on your way back. I grabbed my keys and walked out. In my truck, I sat for a long time thinking about Kendra, Simone's cousin. At family gatherings, Kendra would catch my eye when Simone made one of her cutting remarks. She'd shake her head, slightly, like she was apologizing for something that wasn't her fault. Once at Simone's birthday party, Kendra had pulled me aside. You don't deserve the way she talks to you, she'd whispered. Someone should tell you that. I'd brushed it off then. Family loyalty, I figured, but sitting in that truck, I realized Kendra had been the only person in Simone's circle who ever treated me like I mattered. My phone buzzed. A text from Simone. And get the organic milk, not the cheap stuff. I stared at that message for a full minute. Then I deleted it without responding and drove to the hardware store instead. Not because I needed anything, just because I could. When I got home 2 hours later, Simone was asleep. I stood in the doorway watching her, and for the first time in months, I felt nothing. No affection, no frustration, no guilt about Terrence's messages. Just empty space where 3 years of trying to be good enough used to live. I went to the kitchen and wrote Kendra's number on a piece of paper. I'd gotten it from Simone's phone months ago, back when I still cared about being included in family plans. Tomorrow, I decided I'd use it. Simone and I met at a lounge in Dallas when I was 26. She was finishing her marketing degree, confident and sharp-tongued in ways that impressed me then. I was 2 years into working for Richmond Electric, finally making decent money after a rough patch in my early 20s. She pursued me hard those first few weeks. Showed up at job sites with coffee, texted constantly, made me feel like I'd won something valuable. Looking back, I see it differently now. She was collecting me, not falling for me. The changes started small. She didn't like my friends from work. Too rough, she said. She picked out new clothes for me, said my old ones made her embarrassed to be seen with me. When I got promoted to crew supervisor, she rolled her eyes and said, "Don't let it go to your head. It's still just manual labor." Her family gatherings were the worst. Simone's parents, Gerald and Laverne, owned 3 furniture stores across Houston. They'd ask what I did, and when I said electrical work, they'd nod politely before changing the subject. Simone never defended me. She'd laugh along when her dad made jokes about blue-collar wisdom or when her mom wondered aloud if I'd ever want to advance to something more professional. But Kendra was different. She was 27, taught 2nd grade in elementary school in San Antonio, and she'd actually ask about my work, real questions, like she cared about the answers. When I explained how we were rewiring the old courthouse downtown, she listened. When Simone's dad made another crack about electricians, Kendra would redirect the conversation. "Daryl fixed my garbage disposal last month," she told everyone at Easter dinner. "Saved me $300 and did it better than any service company would have." Simone shot her a look. "He likes playing with tools. He likes helping people." Kendra corrected quietly. I caught her eye across the table. She smiled, and something warm spread through my chest that had nothing to do with gratitude. The warning signs with Simone multiplied over the months. She started going out with friends and not inviting me. When I asked about it, she'd say, "You wouldn't fit in." She criticized everything. How I loaded the dishwasher, how I drove, how I pronounced certain words. When Terrence started texting her 6 months ago, she got defensive instantly. He's going through a divorce, she explained. I'm just being supportive. But her phone was always face down now. She took calls in the bathroom, and she'd started saying things like, Terrence appreciates my advice. He actually listens. The implication was clear. Unlike me, the night she called me easily replaceable, I finally understood. She'd been preparing me for this moment for months. The next morning, Simone left early for work without saying goodbye. I called in sick to Richmond Electric, first time in 2 years, and sat at the kitchen table staring at Kendra's number. What was I doing? Calling my fiancé's cousin because my feelings were hurt. It sounded pathetic even to me. But Kendra had said I didn't deserve how Simone treated me. Maybe she was just being kind, but nobody else had ever said it. Not once in 3 years had anyone suggested I was worth more than what Simone offered. I dialed before I could talk myself out of it. Daryl. Kendra sounded surprised. Is everything okay? I need to ask you something, I said. And I need you to be honest. Silence for a moment, then, okay. Do you think Simone loves me? The pause stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Finally, Kendra said, Can we meet somewhere? This isn't a phone conversation. We met at a coffee shop in Sugarland, halfway between our jobs. Kendra arrived wearing a yellow sundress and looking nervous. She sat across from me and folded her hands on the table. She told me what she said to you, Kendra began, about being replaceable. My stomach dropped. She told you. She was laughing about it. Said, you just took it and didn't even fight back. Kendra's voice was quiet. Daryl, that's not normal. People who love each other don't say things like that. I felt something crack open in my chest. I've been wondering if I'm crazy, if I'm too sensitive. You're not crazy. Kendra reached across the table and touched my hand. Simone has always been cruel. Even as kids, she'd say horrible things and then act like you were the problem for being hurt. Why didn't anyone ever say anything? Because she's good at making people feel like they deserve it. Kendra's eyes were bright with anger I'd never seen before. But you don't deserve it, Daryl. You're kind and hardworking, and you fix things for people without being asked. You remember what coffee I like. You listen when I talk about my students. Simone doesn't see any of that. I stared at our hands. Kendra's was soft and warm, nothing like Simone's cold politeness. I've been thinking about leaving, I said. You should, Kendra said immediately. You should have left a long time ago. Something shifted in the air between us. Kendra pulled her hand back, blushing. I'm sorry, she said. I shouldn't have. Don't apologize. I looked at her face, really looked, and saw something I'd been too loyal to Simone to notice before. Can I ask you something else? She nodded. Would you like to have dinner with me? Not as family, just us. Kendra smiled, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. That evening, I walked into our apartment with a different energy. Simone was on the couch, phone pressed to her ear, laughing at something Terrence had said. I have to go, she said when she saw me. Daryl's home. She hung up and looked at me expectantly. Where's the milk? I forgot it. Her expression darkened. I specifically asked you to. We need to talk. I interrupted. Simone blinked, clearly unused to being cut off. About what? About Terrence. About how you treat me. About us. She set her phone down carefully. Oh, this should be good. Let me guess. You've been thinking all day about our conversation last night, and now you want to have some big relationship talk. I want you to stop talking to Terrence, I said. Simone laughed. Actually laughed. Excuse me. I'm not comfortable with it. The constant texting, the phone calls, it's not appropriate for someone who's engaged. Terrence is my friend. I'm not going to cut off a friendship because you're insecure. It's not about insecurity. It's exactly about insecurity. Simone stood up, crossing her arms. This is what I mean, Daryl. You're so threatened by everything. Terrence has a successful law practice. He drives a BMW. He owns a house in Austin. Of course, that makes you uncomfortable. The words hit exactly where she intended, but instead of the usual shame spiral, I felt something else. Clarity. You're right, I said. I am uncomfortable, but not because of Terrence's money. Then what? Because my fiancé is emotionally cheating on me and acting like I'm crazy for noticing. Simone's face went cold. Emotionally cheating, Daryl. That's ridiculous. Is it? When's the last time you laughed at something I said? When's the last time you took a call from me in front of other people? When's the last time you defended me to anyone? I shouldn't have to defend you. Yes, you should. The words came out louder than I intended. That's what people do when they love someone. They defend them. They support them. They don't tell them they're easily replaceable. Simone stared at me for a long moment. Then she smiled, and it was the coldest expression I'd ever seen on her face. You want to know the truth, Daryl? Terrence asked me to move in with him. He's getting a divorce, and he wants me to be there when it's final. I told him I was engaged, but honestly, I'm starting to think I made a mistake. The words should have devastated me. 6 months ago, they would have. Instead, I felt relieved. So, you were cheating. I'm keeping my options open, she said, which is exactly what someone should do when they're with a person who'll never be anything more than an electrician. There's nothing wrong with being an electrician. There's nothing wrong with it if you're satisfied with mediocrity, but I'm not. Simone picked up her phone again. Terrence appreciates ambition. He appreciates intelligence. He appreciates someone who wants more from life than fixing other people's problems for hourly wages. I stood there absorbing the cruelty of it. 3 years of small cuts had led to this moment. Simone revealing exactly what she thought of me. I'm going to stay at my brother's tonight. I said good. I'll call Terrence. At the door, I turned back. By the way, Simone, I had coffee with Kendra today. Something flickered across her face. What? She thinks I deserve better than this. Kendra doesn't know anything about relationships. She's been single for 2 years. Maybe she's just been waiting for the right person. I left before she could respond. In my truck, I called Kendra. How did it go? She asked. Exactly like you said it would. She chose Terrence. I'm sorry, Daryl. Don't be. I think this is the best thing that could have happened. My brother Maurice lived in a duplex in Fort Worth. He took one look at my face and grabbed 2 beers from his refrigerator. Simone, he asked. I told him everything. Maurice had never liked Simone, but he'd kept quiet because he thought I was happy. As I talked, his expression grew darker. She's been planning this for months, he said when I finished. The comments about Terrence, the criticism, making you feel like garbage. She was setting you up to accept being dumped. Why not just break up with me? Because she wanted a backup plan. If things with Terrence didn't work out, she could keep you around. Maurice took a long drink. Daryl, I've never said anything about your relationships, but this woman is poison. The next morning, Kendra texted me. How are you doing? Instead of answering, I called her. Can I see you today? I need to tell you something. We met at the same coffee shop. This time, Kendra looked worried. Simone called me last night. She said before I could speak. She told me you're going through some kind of emotional breakdown. She said you accused her of cheating and stormed out. Is that what she said? She wants me to talk sense into you to remind you how good you have it with her. Kendra's voice was careful. She also said you were inappropriate with me yesterday, that you made her uncomfortable by calling me behind her back. I felt the trap closing. Simone was turning her family against me before I could tell my side. Kendra, I need to ask you something, and I need you to trust me enough to answer honestly. She nodded. Has Simone always been like this? Even when you were kids? Kendra was quiet for a long moment. When Simone was 15, she dated this boy named Brian. Sweet kid, played guitar, worked at his dad's auto shop. Simone spent months making fun of his clothes, his car, his family. Then one day, she showed up at a family barbecue with Corey Jackson. The Jackson kid whose family owns half the real estate in Houston. What happened to Brian? She dumped him by text. The next week, Brian's friends told everyone Simone had been cheating with Corey for months. She never denied it. Kendra looked at her hands. My Aunt Laverne was so proud. She kept talking about how Simone had upgraded. The pieces clicked into place. This is her pattern. She finds someone decent and loyal, keeps them around while she looks for something better, then discards them in the cruelest way possible. Kendra's voice was bitter. The whole family enables it because Simone always ends up with someone richer or more successful. Except this time Terrence is married. Simone doesn't care. She thinks the divorce means she won. Kendra looked up at me. Daryl, I've watched her do this to 3 different guys. Each time she got a little crueler. Why didn't you warn me? I tried. Remember last Christmas when I said you seemed tired? I was hoping you'd open up, but you just said you were working a lot of overtime. Kendra reached across the table again. I've been wanting to say something for 2 years. But what was I supposed to do? Tell my cousin's fiancée that she's a terrible person. You could have told me I deserved better. I did tell you that at Simone's birthday party. You did. I admitted. I just wasn't ready to hear it. Kendra smiled sadly. Are you ready now? I'm ready for a lot of things now. Over the next week, Simone and I barely spoke. She stayed late at work most nights, and when she came home, she'd go straight to the bedroom to take calls from Terrence. I slept on the couch and counted the days until I could move out. But Kendra and I talked every day. Coffee meetings turned into lunch meetings. She told me about her students, her dreams of maybe becoming a principal someday. I told her about the restoration project I was working on at the old Houston Theater. How satisfying it was to bring something beautiful back to life. Simone never asked about your work, Kendra observed one afternoon. She said it was boring. It's not boring. You light up when you talk about it. Kendra smiled. You should see your face when you explain how you figured out the original wiring system. Something was growing between us. Something I'd never had with Simone. Respect, genuine interest, laughter that wasn't at someone else's expense. Kendra, I said carefully, I need to tell you something. Okay, I'm falling for you. I know the timing is terrible, and I know it's complicated because of Simone, but I need you to know. Kendra was quiet for so long, I thought I'd ruined everything. Then she said, I've had feelings for you since the first family dinner you came to. Simone introduced you as her boyfriend, and I remember thinking she didn't deserve you. Why didn't you say anything? Because you were with my cousin. Because I thought you loved her. Because I convinced myself I was just lonely. Kendra looked at me directly. But I wasn't lonely. I was just waiting for someone like you. What do we do about Simone? We tell the truth. She's going to be furious. But she made her choice when she chose Terrence. She'll make it seem like we had an affair. Let her. Anyone who knows us will see through it. And anyone who doesn't know us well enough to see through it doesn't matter. Simone's family reunion was scheduled for the following weekend at Gerald and Laverne's house in the Heights. Every year, the extended family gathered to celebrate Laverne's birthday and catch up on gossip. Simone had been looking forward to showing off her engagement ring and talking about wedding plans. She'll expect you to come with her, Kendra said. Actually, I have a better idea. Friday night, I packed my things while Simone was at Terrence's. I left the engagement ring on the kitchen counter with a note. You were right. I am easily replaceable. I hope Terrence makes you happy. Saturday morning, I picked up Kendra. She wore a blue dress that made her eyes look like the sky. And when she smiled at me, I felt something I never felt with Simone. Peace. Are you nervous? She asked as we drove toward the Heights. Terrified, I admitted, but also excited. Simone's going to lose her mind. Good. Maybe she'll finally show everyone who she really is. Kendra laughed. My family's going to be shocked. Some of them, but I bet some of them have been waiting for this. We pulled into the driveway at exactly 2 p.m. Through the window, I could see Simone holding court in the living room, probably telling everyone about her successful lawyer boyfriend and her bright future. She had no idea her past was about to catch up with her. Ready? Kendra asked, taking my hand. Ready? Simone saw us through the window before we reached the front door. Her face went through several expressions. Confusion, disbelief, then pure rage. By the time Laverne opened the door, Simone was already pushing past relatives to get to us. What is this? She demanded, looking between Kendra and me. What are you doing here? Hello, Simone, I said calmly. Kendra invited me. Invited you? You're my fiancée. Actually, I'm not. I kept my voice steady as the entire party turned to watch. Check your kitchen counter. Simone's face went white. She pulled out her phone, probably to call someone back at the apartment. You left me for my cousin, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. You cheated on me with my own family. I never cheated on anyone, I said, unlike some people. Gerald stepped forward. What's going on here? Simone's been having an affair with Terrence Robinson for months, Kendra said clearly. She told Daryl he was easily replaceable, so he left. That's not. Simone started. Terrence is married, isn't he? Laverne interrupted, her voice sharp. The room fell silent. Simone looked around at her family, realizing she'd lost control of the narrative. His divorce will be final soon, she said defensively. So, you've been seeing a married man, said Kendra's father, Uncle Leonard, while engaged to Daryl. It's not like that. It's exactly like that, Kendra said. And this isn't the first time. Remember Brian? Remember David from college? Simone's eyes darted around the room, looking for support that wasn't coming. Her carefully constructed image was crumbling in real time. At least Terrence has a future, she said desperately. At least he's not just some electrician. The contempt in her voice hung in the air. I saw several family members exchange glances. Daryl's a good man, said Kendra's mother quietly. He's always been respectful and kind. He fixed our garage door last summer, added Uncle Leonard. Wouldn't take payment. He's helped half the family with electrical problems, said Laverne, looking at her daughter with obvious disappointment. Simone realized she was trapped. Her family was seeing her clearly for the first time. Within 6 months, the whole story came out. Terrence's wife found the text messages, and Simone became a cautionary tale in their social circle. Terrence lost his partnership at the law firm and half his assets in the divorce. Simone lost her job when the scandal reached her workplace. Apparently having an affair with a married client violated company policy. She moved back in with her parents and spent months trying to rebuild her reputation. But Houston isn't that big a city, and people talk. Simone learned what it felt like to be easily replaceable when her friends dropped her one by one. Kendra and I took our time. We dated properly, meeting each other's friends, building something real. A year later, I proposed at the same coffee shop where she'd first told me I deserved better. She said yes before I finished asking. We married 2 years after that reunion. Laverne cried at our wedding. Happy tears, she assured us. Gerald walked Kendra down the aisle and told me I was the son-in-law he'd always hoped for. Even Simone came, bringing a new boyfriend she'd met online. She was polite but quiet, finally understanding that some bridges can't be rebuilt. Maurice was my best man. In his speech, he said, "Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a man is losing something he thought he wanted so he can find what he actually needed." Kendra teaches 3rd grade now. I open my own electrical contracting business. We have a house in Pearland with a workshop in the garage and plans for kids someday. Simone was right about one thing. I was easily replaceable in her life, but she was wrong about what that meant. It didn't make me worthless. It made me free to find someone who saw my worth. Sometimes the best revenge is just being happy. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.